It is the second episode of Around the World in 30 Minutes. Everybody, thank you for watching and listening to this special edition show. Of course, Cole McDaniel here with Matt Brzezinski once again. And we're talking about this pretty fresh after the United States played against Wales. They drew in that game. Of course, it's something we're going to talk about here in just a moment. But the World Cup fully underway. Our first episode was previewing. Now that the World Cup is underway, I want to talk about the host country a little bit. Here's what I will say. Despite the frustrations that we had maybe with Qatar getting that bid years ago, of course, changing the season that it's actually played in, moving from the summer until really late fall, winter time because of the temperatures. It messes up club schedules. It does change a lot of things. There are a lot of players out there who picked up knocks with their club teams and can't be at the World Cup. There's a lot that I disagree with, but here's what I would have to say. Opening ceremony definitely was nostalgic. It was entertaining. I enjoyed the opening ceremony. I think it was well done. Am I loving what's being done in Qatar? No, not specifically. But I will give them credit for the opening ceremony. They started off well. Matt, how did you feel about that, or did you have a chance to watch that opening ceremony?
Unfortunately, I missed out the ceremony watching it live. I did catch some of the pictures of the ceremony, and it looked pretty good. Obviously, yeah, I don't agree with having the World Cup at this time of year. It kind of will mess with some Thanksgiving traditions like NFL football, which will be interesting enough just for the Twitter sense of it all, just to see all the chaos going on there. But no, again, from what it looked like, it looked pretty good. I mean, we just got to get on with how with the fact that it's happening now, and now that the games are underway, we can kind of focus more on that, which is a nice change of pace.
Well, this is kind of a two-way street of why I wanted to start off and give Qatar the credit for the opening ceremony, playing the old World Cup songs before unveiling the new one, incorporating that all in together. They had a lot of cool features. All of the former World Cup mascots before unveiling theirs. It was very nostalgic, which was good. That was the one win that Qatar can take. Then they took a big loss not too long after, within an hour after that opening ceremony being played on television. That was one of the worst performances that I've ever seen in the opening match for a host country. And I say one of the worst because my question is here, was it the worst? Okay, we know it's in that group, but in our lifetime, Matt, of course, we're now mid-20s. We haven't seen as many World Cups as other people out there, but we still have plenty to remember. Is that the worst one that you can recall of that opening match for a host nation?
Yeah. As a whole, in terms of the quality and everything that went on, that has to be the worst performance from a host that I've ever seen in my life. However, when it comes to levels and what you'd expect, I did not expect anything from Qatar really. Obviously, what I expected ended up not even they didn't even touch what I expected, and I expected something really bad. But the one that comes into mind that it's a little bit of a hot take, but I think Brazil in 2014, that opening match, that was one of the sloppiest games that I've seen Brazil play. They had a little bit of help from refereeing in that game because of the host nation on the opening game. They won 3-1, so in the end, it doesn't look like a bad match. But for the standards that were set for that team, that in my head comes to my head as probably one of the worst. But again, that's my personal hot take from what I can remember in recent years. Because again, with South Africa in 2010, that was a team you didn't expect much from, and they came out really passionate and lively and kind of surprised a lot of people just taking a draw from Mexico and striking first. But yeah, that Brazil 2014, that one kind of sticks out as one that was really sloppy. that could even kind of reach anything close to how bad that was from Qatar on Sunday.
Yeah, '06, I don't remember that well, hardly any of it. 2010 was the one where I think I honestly saw at least a piece or in a part of every single match of that entire World Cup. I mean, you and I, we still would have been school age. We would have been off for the summer at that point in our lives, so we would have had a chance to watch a lot of those matches. And I loved that World Cup. It was still my favorite World Cup. I thought Brazil was fun. I mean, even though I didn't necessarily love Russia, there were still fun things with that. Just the World Cup's fun in general, but the South Africa one, something was special about that. And I think it's the way it started off so hot. That opening match, I remember it so well. South Africa playing against Mexico, through ball to Shabalala, running from the left wing, his left mid spot, and he had some pace. He was cruising, got on the break with the preferred left boot, wrapped his laces through that thing, rifled it up towards that upper 90, tucked that thing home, ran to the corner off on the other side, and they danced in the corner, and the Vuvuzelas were already buzzing and humming quickly on. So, yeah, Mexico tied that match up. It ended in a draw. But for a team that you weren't expecting much of, South Africa really showed up in that first opening match. They set that tone for that World Cup, and it was an electric, fun World Cup. Then you turn to Brazil. You're right, Brazil, they weren't crisp and clinical and what people expected, but they still got the win. You're right, it was 3-1. I don't think that can rank up there. Russia, again, a team that you thought maybe was on that bottom half of the pack in 2018, maybe squeaking their way up towards the middle. They came out and performed quite well. Okay, I don't remember every single match they had, but Russia stepped up and actually put on a decent showing. So I think Qatar, they definitely, in my lifetime, of the matches I remember, put on the worst showing for the opening match by far. The first half, I am surprised that the scoreline was what it was. It could have been much, much worse. Maybe a little bit of a bailout there by officiating. It was a little sloppy on that VAR situation. They might have actually ended up making the right call, but it's unfortunate because basically that ball was bouncing around there in the box. A couple guys going after it. Just so happens one of them appeared to be just barely offsides. It was hard to honestly tell about that one. Thought that Ecuador was maybe robbed a little bit of that first goal. They had a good showing themselves, Ecuador did, but Qatar could not get a touch on that ball. I mean, everything was bomb it down the field, clear it out, try to deal with a wave of attack, clear it out again. There was no possession. There was no soccer or football. It wasn't really the beautiful game from Qatar. It was, let's get this thing out of our defensive half, try to live to see another day, and they just kept facing wave and wave of attack. Second half, they started to actually look like professional soccer players. It looked like, honestly, a Sunday league men's team in that first half. They just did not perform well. We'll see if they do anything more. I wasn't expecting much from them, but as the host nation, first match, I would have expected a little bit more energy and them to come out and play a little bit better. So I think that is the worst performance I had seen from the host country in that opening match. Now,
I mean, again, I wasn't saying that Brazil was bad in that opening match. I'm just saying in comparison to the levels that you expect from a team
right.
in their opening match, you expect a little bit more adrenaline because they're hosting, they want to put on a show. That opening match for Brazil in that World Cup where they hosted in 2014, it was probably the worst performance of a host nation that I could remember at the time until this one. I mean, this was just. I mean, you and I it looked like we probably could have at least gotten a 1-2 down a line
Yeah,
together. Whereas I mean, they were playing a back five with wingbacks, and they couldn't even get a throw in to their
yeah,
teammates. They were
yeah.
missing throw ins. I mean, that's like a gimme almost in soccer. So yeah, and on that VAR, I mean, yeah, I think in the end it was probably the right decision, but it was so weird how they even presented the evidence that it was the correct decision. At the time I texted you, I was like, man, this is bad. This
Yeah,
is really bad. Um, and I don't know. There were just a lot of problems with how both Qatar presented themselves as a team, and then with the technology and everything and trying to get the right call, it just really was fumbled early. Ecuador they deserved their win. They got their win.
hmm,
But man, that was a rough Sunday.
yeah. We've had a few sessions off from men's league. Of course, that starting up here shortly for you and I again. Get to play some men's league soccer, so on the same team. But you're right. I honestly think that if the objective was just to get the ball and clear it out, I think I could have gotten a few touches out there, a few clearances myself out there on that pitch in that match. Now, one that we were talking about the starts for these teams, and we're going to switch over to the United States and Wales and recapping this. Like I said, we're recording this not too long after we watched that earlier, and of course, the show going to go up maybe about a day later. So everybody who's watching again, this is fresh after the United States match against Wales and drawing 1-1. Matt, your initial thoughts for the United States and Wales. How did you feel about that one for the United States?
I'll tell you what. In the first half, I was really impressed with how the United States were building up and getting around what is a sneaky tall back line for Wales. I don't think any attacker other than Tim Weah in that United States front six is taller than 5'10", it looks like on the field. Now they could be, 5'11", 6 foot, but none of them look any taller than 5'9", 5'10". And they knew that, so they were playing around the edges of that back five from Wales to get low crosses into the box. And they almost scored early off of a Josh Sargent flicked header off the post. He was very unlucky to get that, not get on target, and then probably even sneak it in at the front post. But the goal that they scored was really, really impressive. How they just quick 1-2s, 2 touches max for each player in that first half to break through the lines, and Pulisic just gave the most beautiful ball probably in that tight of a space, and Weah just waited and flicked it with the outside of his foot into that. I was really impressed in that first half. The only thing that kind of upset me as a fan was the discipline. I think the adrenaline was pumping a little bit too much for like I said, Serginho Dest and Weston McKennie. They made some challenges that weren't worth yellow cards, but in the moment, they just half second too late, making a rash decision, and you once you leave it up to a referee to make that decision on whether or not it's a yellow card, that was probably the one thing that upset me in that first half.
Mm-hmm.
But initially, I was really impressed with how they were playing.
Yeah, and starting off with the first half, you're right. They started off well. They performed at the level you expected. And it just goes to show the youth, the legs, the speed that they have, the ability. This is not the United States of old, what you saw in the past, where there was a lot of MLS talent. For people who don't know this game super well, you look to Landon Donovan and think he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. Landon Donovan was a good U.S. player, one of the best U.S. players they've ever had in the history. But the bar has still been pretty low. I think a good handful, maybe 2 handfuls of the current group, as they get older, if they piece together good careers, barring any injuries or anything like that, they can all be listed higher on that list than Landon Donovan. Clint Dempsey is the guy that I would argue actually has been the best American player. I think Clint Dempsey was more skilled. Here's why. As national team players, they were on pretty similar levels, Clint Dempsey and Landon Donovan. When Landon Donovan went to Everton, he really didn't do that much. I wasn't impressed when he was playing over in the Premier League. Now, Clint Dempsey with Fulham was a whole lot better and more impactful with Fulham than Landon Donovan was over there. Same league in the Premier League. So I still think, like I said, Clint Dempsey's that guy above Landon Donovan. But this group, Pulisic's more talented than both of them. Brendan Aronson is. Gio Reyna. Tim Weah might actually be a little bit more talented. Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie. I think Yunus Musa, if he pieces things together, he could be more talented. Serginho Dest. I actually think really a lot of those guys who start and some of the guys on the bench have arguments that if they have really good careers, stay healthy, piece things together, this could be, again, that group that takes U.S. soccer to the next level. And we knew it years ago. They were just too young to put that young group of inexperienced guys that weren't fully built physically, not fully matured, to be able to go out there and play. And that's why they didn't get the run out, didn't qualify for the World Cup. We talked about it last week. Now that they're out there, you see the talent. You see the ability. They have that potential. And there's less guys that play in the MLS, more guys that are playing overseas, playing in top quality leagues, and it's showing. They looked fantastic in the first half. Now, as we turn to the second half, and I'll get your take on the second half as well. Going back to the first half a little bit, I still think Weston McKennie's maybe not 100%, not operating 100%. Pulisic dropped off in the second half. He wasn't looking as good. And by the way, get him, aside from penalties, get him off of set pieces. Corners, poor delivery. You got to get it over the front of that near post and get it over that first man. He doesn't do it. Same with free kicks. Penalties, I trust Pulisic. Everything else, have somebody else take your corners, take your free kicks. Tyler Adams was lights out. I didn't think Gareth Bale was that impressive. I'm going to touch on the penalty in just a moment. Yeah, he got the penalty, he scored the goal. That's why he was man of the match. I think Tyler Adams should have been man of the match. The brand of soccer that the United States plays, that they run all over the pitch, and it's all about high pressing and moving around. Tyler Adams is all over the place. I mean, he is a box-to-box midfielder that's really playing as the sixth, the holding mid. He is just not afraid to run all over the place. And it's nice for him that Leeds in the United States play very similar systems. That's just how they want to play right now. And it works for him. He does so well. I was really impressed with his possession, his awareness. And at 23 years old, looking like a mature veteran captain, so impressed with him. Tim Ream looked good. He really stepped up. Of course, Tim Weah got the goal. I thought there were a lot of impressive performances out there. Now, Walker Zimmerman had a pretty good game in general, but when a ball comes in and a guy's back is to the goal, don't go in on a challenge. It was absolutely a penalty. It was an aggressive challenge over Antsy coming through the back of Gareth Bale. Easy call, simple for the official, and the right call. And Gareth Bale stepped to the penalty spot and buried it. That's one of those things. The only chance Bale has is he's going to do one of two things. And the first one's probably much more likely. He's going to trap that ball. He's going to try to turn and get on his left foot and get a shot. Because he's very left foot dominant. He's not turning to his right. So you know where he's going. Stand him up, stay in front, keep him off of that left foot from getting a clean strike off. That's number one. Now, it is Gareth Bale. Could he go for the fanatics and try to flick it up and then after flicking it up, try to go for some type of a bicycle kick or something? Maybe. But I'll take my chances against that any day rather than lunging and going through the back of him. It's probably the first thing rather than the latter of him just trying to get on the left foot. If you're Zimmerman, no need to lunge there. You've got him in a spot you want him. That was a costly mistake, but maybe the only mistake from Zimmerman. I think he can clean it up. It's unfortunate Um, but certainly that is a costly mistake and maybe the biggest one. The last thing I want to touch on, Berhalter at the end, putting in Jordan Morris instead of Gio Reyna. His reasoning in the track meet style of game, he wanted the speed and the physicality of Jordan Morris. Okay, I understand that argument, but Gio Reyna is a really good talent. He's crafty on the ball. He can make something happen. I don't think you needed as much of speed as you just needed somebody who could find a way to create. And that's what Gio Reyna does. So I think Berhalter's not actually playing his cards. I don't think Gio Reyna is fully healthy. I think they were giving him a couple more days to rest, get to nearly full health, as healthy as they can get him before that England match, because they know they need him against England. I just think that, yeah, maybe he thought Jordan Morris might fit in that match with how it was being played, but I think that was the difference of why he didn't put Reyna in. I just think he wanted a couple more days of rest with Reyna. I think it's a mistake. I think you got to put your best guy out there of who you have on the bench. Of course, Aaronson was in. Reyna should be your second guy, if not the first guy that comes off the bench. Aaronson, Reyna were your two guys to go to, and you didn't go to one of them. And that's a mistake and maybe costly as well.
Yeah, the Jordan Morris one really, when I saw the camera pan over to him, and I was like, there's got to be something, because in qualifying and any chance that he's had before, he's always gone to Reyna, or a Ricardo Pepi before. If it in the last 2-3 years in this World Cup cycle qualifying, he's always kind of favored the youth in those kind of close call situations where it is more of a track meet. I had a feeling though, once full time was blown, I kind of figured that he was probably protecting Reyna. That again, he's probably not 100% fit, and I think he was okay with the draw in that situation, Berhalter, and it's not the worst outcome result in your opening match. Obviously, yeah, you want to hold on to that win, but realistically, you got a chance against an England side who, albeit looked good attacking, but they really were not impressive defensively against Iran. So I think he really wanted to make sure that Reyna would be at least, would be able to give 30 minutes in that kind of match, where he favors that we might need to scrap out a point there and then really go gung ho against Iran in the last match.
Well, I think you're right. I think Berhalter was content with a draw because the second half things were going Wales' way. They had the better chances. They seemed like they had the better attacks. Now, at the last couple minutes, it just felt like it was back and forth and back and forth. Somebody could possibly get the goal. But I would say that second half, possession started to swing Wales' way. They probably were on that attacking half a little bit more than the United States were. So I think he was content just to finish it off, not lose it at the very last, and having a major collapse, walking away with a point, regathering, regrouping against England. And we know Iran's not that good. So you'd expect that, again, if your boys go out there and play like they should, that they should walk away with 3 points from that match. It's just probably going to come down to goal differential. Have to hope that, again, you got the offense clicking. You're putting up goals. You're going to try to pour it on, find a way to get that ball in the back of the net. So I'm with you. I think he made that decision. Last thing I want to touch on with the United States here, analyzing this match, how different the quality of play dropped when some more of those MLS guys got out there, some of those other guys got out on the field. I thought, honestly, I was going to rag on Kellen Acosta, and I know Haji Wright doesn't play in the MLS, but he really didn't do much when he got in. I know he's just a big presence in the box. Jordan Morris. When some of those guys, Yedlin, just some of those older guys got in, or some of those guys that aren't in the Premier League or La Liga or Serie A, when they got in, you saw that level drop for sure. It was evident. And I thought I was really going to rag on Kellen Acosta because I'm like, man, this guy's touch is so poor for a midfielder. It is just not the level of Tyler Adams and Musa and all those guys. And then I'm not going to rag on him. I'm going to give him a ton of credit. Matt Turner had to come out, head that ball. If you pay attention to that again, Turner heads that ball. It gets to Gareth Bale at midfield. Turner is well outside the 18, probably about 25 yards out from his goal. Bale gets his head up. He's about to strike that and put that over Matt Turner's head in the goal. You would see the United States lose 2-1. Kellen Acosta, a savvy, decisive move to take down Gareth Bale, one of the most brilliant yellow cards you can pick up to stop that, and it saved a point for the United States. Huge tackle, and I'm going to give him all the credit in the world, even though, maybe not the best with the touch and the most clinical. That's one of the reasons why Berhalter has him in the squad, to add a veteran voice, but also add a guy who clearly tactically knowledgeable, and also add some of that defensive ability there in the midfield. So I got to give him a lot of credit because he probably did save a point today.
Yeah, I didn't think he looked bad when he came on. I actually thought that he went in there and kept the kind of physical nature up that the U.S. needed in that last 20 minutes or so that he was on. He's not as good as a Tyler Adams or a McKennie or even a Musa, but what he brings is that nous, that on pitch knowledge on where to be at the very least and what kind of decision to make. Whether or not he can actually make that move is something. But yeah, that tackle was one that, as a defender, that's a tackle that you kind of make yourself smile a little bit. You're like, just saved a goal there. Saved us a point. So I don't dislike any of the moves that Berhalter made really. It's just one of those that it's a little unlucky that the referee was that poor the whole match. And really you don't blame referees for results, but they definitely end up playing a role if they're bad.
Yeah, it didn't cost the match for either team, but it definitely took away from playing time. I think they wasted a lot of time. It allowed Wales to waste time. It's just one of those things where really, if, let's say, a Wales player goes down, which we saw quite a bit, a Wales player goes down, the United States have possession of the ball. As the official, you let play go on unless it's a head injury, and it's evident that it's a head injury. He was stopping it regardless. And then on the other end, Pulisic goes down just a few moments later, and then you can see Pulisic raising his arms in the air after play's not stopped. He was just very inconsistent with the way he was handling those situations. I think he himself actually wasted a lot of match time, the official, because of how he was allowing Wales to waste that time and stopping play when you don't have to. It's kind of it's in the rule book as a written rule. It's kind of an unwritten rule as well. I mean, you just don't see officials doing that. And none of those were head injuries. I thought it was foolish, whatever. But I do have to say this. I think that those guys probably were dealing with some cramping because the back and forth, I do think the legs were probably starting to get heavy for both of those squads because it was go, go, go. That is for sure. As we turn to England coming up next, first we want to start with evaluating England. They ran rampant over Iran. Iran certainly in the category early on to be in contention with Qatar for worst of the nations they're playing. They looked poor against England, but England has a lot of talent. They looked impressive offensively. They were able to continue to just bury that ball in the back of the net. What were your thoughts on England, Matt?
They were so impressive. And I think the most impressive part is just how nonchalant they looked from about The after that big break in the match from the head injury for
Mhm.
the Iran goalkeeper, um, you know, after that big break, they really just I don't think they got out of third gear. They were just cruising and they just made it look so easy out there. And then when their starters came off and the likes of Rashford and Foden came on, it just kept going. It didn't stop offensively. They were really impressive. Um, and definitely something that as a United States fan you concern yourself a little bit with. But you also have to know that a good chunk of your team plays with these guys
Mhm.
on a week to week basis. Uh, and Matt Turner in goal, he practices with the likes of Bukayo Saka, so
Right.
he gets that shooting practice on high quality shots every day in practice with Arsenal. Um, I expect it to be a lot closer than England Iran for the United States, but they were just so impressive offensively, but defensively, wow, they were shockingly bad.
Well, not shockingly bad. I mean, Harry Maguire is your left center back. So, yeah, anytime you got Harry Maguire back there, you don't stand much of a chance defensively. You better be scoring goals because you know you're going to give up a couple the other way. Of course, the first goal for Iran, who was that run behind? Harry Maguire, of
Why
course.
was he 6 yards ahead of John Stones?
No clue. No clue.
There's no reason to be that high up in a flat defensive line when every other defender is in a flat line there. Why are you 6 yards up when you know you don't have the pace to keep up with a running striker? I don't get it. And something that just really shocks me is how does Southgate not play like that all the time?
I don't know.
You have that much talent going forward, and you'll whether you play with a back five or a back four, you're going to play with the same pivot two of Bellingham and Rice. It's just a matter of getting one extra guy forward. I mean, if you can score 4 goals against almost anyone, I mean, you might as well take your chances that you'll give up no more than 2 or 3.
Mm-hmm.
I don't get how in once they get into knockout stages, they just go to a back five and give up 35% or 30% more possession than they have. It just blows my mind.
Yeah, they need to continue to stay in that. And England was very impressive, but I would also say it's also Iran was that bad. Like a minute after Marcus Rashford comes on, he cuts inside and just slots that one home. The way he cut back and the defender was like on skates for just a simple cutback in transition. I mean, come on. Like we see Rashford play enough as Manchester United fans. Does he typically do things like that and make guys look stupid in the box? No. He's just a speed guy. He's very straightforward. He's not shifty at all whatsoever. He doesn't stop on a dime or anything like that. I mean, he just made that look simple. I mean, I think that's why he was chuckling about it, kind of laughing as well. He immediately came on. It was an easy finish for him. Bukayo Saka looked impressive. Harry Kane's always a threat up there. I mean, you can run down the list of the attackers, just all those forwards, the midfielders. They look good. The wing backs, we know those outside backs, right back, left back, they have plenty of ability. Their concern is the heart of the defense, their center backs. Maguire, he went out. Will we see him back? I don't know. But Stones, Dyer, not much better than when you have Maguire back there either. I think Dyer's a little bit better, but it's nothing that impressive. Remember, Dyer used to be a center defensive mid that became a center back later in his career. He's been a center back for a while. I think that's something that the United States could possibly exploit. I see them have the ability to maybe find a way to still score against England. As we turn to the last question, does the United States have a chance? I'm going to say that they do stand a chance. I don't think they're going to win this match by any means, but they stand a chance to come away with a point. And if you can snag a point, I think that's going to do you a lot of good because you should beat Iran. And I don't think Wales stands as good of a chance against the United States. Excuse me, Wales doesn't stand as good of a chance against England as the United States do. I just think the United States' relentless way of pressing and being able to run around the field. I think you're going to use Brendan Aronson even more in this match. You get Gio Reyna involved. I think they're going to be pesky. They're going to be pests. I still think that England wins this match, but I'm not holding my breath and saying that the United States, they're completely out of this. I think they could honestly piece together a 1-1, a 2-2 type of match. Like I said, I have England winning this one, but I think the United States could make it interesting. And a lot of those players, there's a good handful on the team that's familiar with their opponents in England.
Yeah, I think England is definitely gettable with the way that the United States build up in possession and try to, strike quickly by playing quickly around defenders and just, because again, they're not trying to put in big crosses or big long balls. They're trying to play quick and around you. So I think with how slow both Stones and Maguire or Dyer, no matter who they have back there in the center back, you're going to be able to create a chance or two to just, kind of poke ones in with quick balls on the floor. But I wouldn't be shocked if the United States somehow pull one off. It's not unlike England to have just an absolute stinker against someone. In 2010, we snuck away with a draw because of poor goalkeeping and honestly poor play from the whole England side and that was a side with Lampard and Gerrard in the midfield. I mean, that's a Wayne Rooney in his prime up top. And that right there is probably better than what they've got right now.
Yes, correct.
And that's saying something with how good this England side is. So I wouldn't be shocked if we pull off a 2-1. I'm not going to hold my breath and say that we're going to. I would lean more towards a 1-1 or a 2-1 loss.
Mm-hmm.
But there are going to be chances in this game, and the U.S. just have to be clinical enough to make and take them.
Yeah, I think everybody just needs to hold the expectation if England is going to outpossess you, they're going to have the ball a whole lot more. They're going to have more chances, would be my guess. But Trippier and Shaw are both very attacking-minded outside backs. If we see them out against the United States again, don't be surprised if those two get sucked up a little bit, because that attack's going to be coming at you, at the United States. And the U.S., they want to get out and counter is going to be their ultimate goal. So watch out for Weah. Watch out for Pulisic. Watch out for those fast wingers getting in behind those wing backs, going 1v1, 2v2 versus those slower center backs of England. That could be the key factor getting out in transition. Certainly stand that chance. As we wrap this up, we want to thank everybody for watching and listening here to the second episode of Around the World in 30 Minutes. Everybody out there, enjoy your Thanksgiving, have fun, safe travels, enjoy the time with your family, and Black Friday, make sure to watch the United States and cheer on the boys as they are, again, over in Qatar, fighting for the country, representing, first time in 8 years. It has already been a blast. Can't wait to see them back in action. Again, enjoy your night and enjoy the holidays.